Hey guys, this is Dan with Avantnovis. I've got kind of a community request today. It's basically how to practice your map making and a way to look at map making that will improve every single way you make a map. This is kind of a fun one. This is something that I do all the time in order to make my maps look as good as possible and make them believable, and not only believable, be able to create them in my memory, from my imagination and stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, software that you'll need, any type of software that you can control and paste, or anything else for that matter you want to do it. You can do this in MS Paint. You can do this in ArtRage. You can do this in Photoshop. Pretty much any type of software you can practice these steps, and your paintings will absolutely get better. First of all, we're gonna talk about three things. We're gonna talk about shape. We're gonna talk about form. We're gonna talk about details. Now, if you've ever had any art classes, these three things are going to sound really familiar to you. A shape is basically the two-dimensional shape of your map. Okay. Form is analyzing the structure of the map and deciding, if I was looking at it in 3D, where would be the high points, where would be the low points, and details are just the little details that go into this. Now, there's a couple ways to practice these. Let's talk first of all about shape. The first way is observational practicing. Okay, well, what is that? It basically means we're looking at an observation of a real map, and we're just tracing it to get a feel of what looks realistic, what feels right, what a globe, the framing of the map, and what looks good and what looks bad. Okay, that's observational. That's observational map making. The second type is, we're just going into an imagination of a shape and practice that. So let's go ahead and do the observational map making really quick. For grins and giggles, let's go over here to the Middle East. And I'm just going to Control Print Screen, go to my piece of software, and Control V that sucker in. So yeah, we're done. Okay, so what do we do here after we got it? Well, we're going to practice just tracing in another layer. We're just going to trace the contours, the outlines. Let's make this really bright and annoying, of a real map. Now, why are we doing this? Well, this is going to give us, we have a certain language that we express when we are map making, and that language is all our own, but it's a variation on a common subject, and that common subject is the earth we live on. So by doing this, you kind of get a feel of what a realistic map looks like and what it's trying to portray. So I'm just going to do this real quick, not worry about any type of mistakes or anything like that. And that's what you should be doing in this. This is just a study, meaning a way to practice map making. And the reason we do this is the more we do studies is the more that we express our abilities and express that language that we develop for ourselves. Okay, there's Black Sea. Let's go around Turkey here. Again, I'm just observing and going over the different areas. Okay, this is the first way to build up your map making skill. What that does, if we turn off this layer, we can see this outline. And again, there's other stuff here, but we look and say, hey, that's the Middle East. We identify using our structural language where this is and what it does. So let's go ahead and let's go into the second form of this, the imagination form. Now, this one is critical in my opinion. Since we're all doing maps from our imagination, all we need to do to practice is just quickly, and I mean quickly, just draw the shape of the world that we're creating. A lot of times I find that when I'm creating a world, I'll just be sitting here and going like, okay, here's an inlet right there, and we're going to put, this is the Bay of Souls, down here is the Undying Shore, and I'll make this really detailed map when all I need to do and I'll fall into a trap that it has to be perfect the first time. In this case, we can just make a map really quick and kind of plot where stuff's going to be. Or in fact, we can just do this for the sake of doing it and develop our language when we are making a map as such. And I'm just throwing stuff down. I'm making, a border here, and we'll come down. And once you get this done, you're going to look at it and say, okay, what do I like? What don't I like? What could be better? Right now, I don't like this center. Okay, and again, that is just my preference. So let's go ahead in this sketch. We'll go ahead and we'll make this into something more. Okay, pretty good. And then, of course, we can use, a little paint bucket and make our shape into something like this. And then the next few moments, I can go to something completely different. Let's say we, maybe come down with an inner sea here instead of a big landform like I usually do. So let's go with this inner sea. And I'm just throwing something up here just to practice my form, just to practice the shape of the maps that I make. And sometimes this leads to amazing discoveries. Let's say I really like this inner sea. And then I'm like, okay, I really like this inner sea, and boom, I can come in and define the shape a little bit more. But let's say I want some more islands. And then maybe I have the start of a campaign map that I'm going to do, or something else. A lot of times as artists, as map artists, we get a author that says, okay, here's my land, and this is my capital, and there needs to be some islands here, and some islands here, and maybe some islands here, and that. Go for it. Well, the artist has just done your work for you in the shape work, in the sense they've given you a pre-shaped design. All right, let's go ahead and look over here. And again, another imaginative map. Another way from the imagination is just to start with a big shape. Okay, and then add things on that and see what looks good. I recommend before you do any map, you play with the shape of the map first, and then move on to the form and the details. Okay, let's talk about form. Okay, what is form? Form is the shape of a map in 3 dimensions. Let's go back to this guy here. And let's do another one really quick. Okay, so form, if we are creating the form of a map, let's say we have the shape. Let's say this is going to be our map right here. The form is going to determine where the details are going to go and what you want to convey to your audience or those that are looking at your map. Okay, and what do I mean by that? Of course, most fantasy maps are not 3D, but in fact they are. What we're looking at here is, if I'm looking at this map, I'm determining the elevations and the height of this map. So let's say in the middle of the map I want this mountain range. I want a mountain range like right here. I have just made technically the plans for a 3-dimensional map, or where the images that represent 3-dimensional things are going. So if I went to a cross section, and this is something I like to do, oops, not that, is I come down here and I make the map itself, and I make kind of where the mountain peaks are in 3 dimensions if I was going to make the map. And that gives me a form. And then I can say, okay, in this area, I'm going to put mountains. And that means down here to down here is where my rivers are going to head up. And then something else wonderful happens. Because this is in 3D and because I'm looking at this with a drawing down here, I realize that I now have a plate tectonic that is running. Let's do that in green. I have a plate tectonic that is running here. You see, when you ask yourself what is the form of my map, or what is the 3 dimensions of my map, you can plan it out to accurately look like something that's real and believable. Okay, so let's go over this once again, really quick. 2 ways to practice. We can, let's get rid of that guy. We can go to Yield Google Earth. We can find a location. We can control copy or control print screen. Go back to our software. Put it down. We can come in here and we can, this is again observational map making. Now we got to set this. And then we can just quickly trace a realistic map. And you can be as detailed as possible if you want. I just like doing it like this to get what realistic land looks like. Again, this is observational. And again, if I, yeah. So, and then there's imaginative, which I just draw quick shapes. I mean, as quick as you can. Got kind of a funky little island there. That's cool. Let's come up here with a big landmass. And this is a really good way to not only plan out your maps, but increase the speed of how you plan your maps. Okay, and again, I'm just looking at spatial relations. We don't want anything that looks like this, that causes a tangent, that just looks weird to our eyes. So just play with it. Go nuts. I'm not going to tell you, I shouldn't tell you exactly what to draw here, but these are studies. These are ways that you can increase how your maps look just by doing it this fast. Like once a day, just sit down, do a quick study, and you'll get better. Okay, let's talk about details. Now, when we make a map, again, let's make something, maybe these 2 islands that exist with each other. Again, really fast. We have our details. So we know, let's put mountains in the middle of these. Well, how do we practice mountains? Well, that's easy. We just start drawing or looking up ways to draw mountains. Okay, I prefer kind of a ridge line as such. And then I will pull down my little mountain veins as such. Okay, and I practice details. Let's say I'm doing a grove of trees. And again, I'm really hustling on this and I'm drawing really big. But I will draw my details and practice drawing your details, not on your map, but someplace else. Why? Again, we could fall into this trap that it has to be perfect from the start. This is totally, do not do this. Please, please, please do not do this. Practice the shape, practice your mountains, practice the trees. It's a lot easier to practice somewhere else and then come in and work on a map. Okay, with digital art, it's especially easy to work on a map for the simple reason is you can just easily erase and then get rid of or edit of what you're doing. Okay, so again, details, practice your shape, practice the details somewhere else. Let's say I'm doing kind of a map that has this type of symbology. Okay, and right now I'm just practicing what that should look like. And just 5-10 minutes of you practicing your shapes, you'll be amazed at what will happen. Another reason we're doing this is we're breaking down the process of drawing. Oh, thanks. Search, deploy, and commit. This is Art Rage. Again, this practice, you could do it in MS Paint. You could do it in Photoshop. Any type of software you want to do, you can use it. Let's say we're doing this in MS Paint. And again, I'm just practicing making a form. We're making the shape of the map we draw. Ooh, that ain't happy. We will do a whole new painting here. Don't save that. Okay, we're practicing the shape of a map. And then we're going to ask ourselves, what is the form of this map? Again, I don't know why I constantly go to islands, but I do. So let's go ahead and make a large landmass. And the form of these maps is the 3 dimensions. So on this map, let's say I want mountains right in the middle, and then I want mountains up here. If I were to draw it in 2D, I mean in 3D, here would be me looking at it straight on. Here would be my rising coast, and then mountain, and then coming down here, and then I have a really flat area, and then mountain, and then more flat area. And this is going to get the form. This tells me which directions the rivers will move and which direction, you know, there's going to be land and climate and all that stuff. Your form is going to dictate what your map looks like. And then our details, we're going to practice our details like crazy. Okay, well, where does this all add up? It's simple. Once we have a basic knowledge of where things are and what things are going to do, let's say I make the form of this map as such, and I get a good idea on stuff, I can then move on to my bigger projects, my bigger maps, my more detailed and elaborate maps. And then I can make these little islands that I'm so used to doing, really, you know, detailed lines with inlets, and really focus on the shape. And now that I know the shape, what looks good and what doesn't look good, I can come down here and I can just make a coast, and I'm going to do this real quick here, that looks really interesting, that resembles a real world location. But of course it's coming from our imagination. If you look at sometimes that fantasy maps don't look right, you'll get like, well, here's kind of a reference here. A really detailed map. Sometimes you get maps that look like, oh, here's my country, and it comes like this. And you're like, that doesn't look realistic, and I can see a face in it. Well, the reason for that is the shape is catching our eye a little bit wrong. So again, we have our map here, and then let's say we have our mountain range. We know it's going to be like right there. So we draw our 3D outline. Oops. We draw our 3D outline as such. And let's put again, I'm doing this real fast. We'll put our mountains there. If we're going as fast as we can, this is going to look pretty decent. So let's just put, and again, I'm just making triangles here, nothing elaborate. We will put our triangles just like this. Okay, and then let's go with our forests. And again, since I focused on the shape first, and then where stuff's going to be, that's what we're going to call our form. I can now do the details real quick. And we have a semi-looking decent map. We'll put some rivers here, maybe another river here. River here. There's not going to be much rivers there because I don't have mountains. Let's say we have a river through the forest. And something very quick like that. And the key to this is practicing your shape, your form, and then your details. Again, shape is shape of landmass. Form is where stuff's going to be. And then details are pretty much simply what we put in last. By breaking it down into these little structures, you'll notice that you'll be making shapes that look a lot better. You'll notice you'll be making shapes that look a lot more realistic. And you'll also be expressing the idea of what you have in your mind, of the land you have in your mind on paper, by breaking it down into these little bite-sized pieces. So this has been a real quick stream. I hope this helps. I hope this inspires you. And when you're doing these little studies, when you're doing these little projects of like tracing a realistic map or putting something down on from your imagination, you're breaking it up into the shape, the form, and the details. Hope this has helped. Hope you like it. If you want to see more or have special suggestions or want community content, please put that in the description below. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers. When we hit that, I'm going to make all my maps on Drivethrough RPG for free. So please like, subscribe, and keep in touch, and have a great day. Thanks.